The Dow Jones Industrial Average closed down more than 250 points on Thursday after the Trump administration announced it will impose tariffs on imports from the European Union, Canada, and Mexico. The extra taxes on steel and aluminum are scheduled to take effect at midnight, and the affected nations are pushing back. Kenneth Craig has more.
President Trump is ready to enforce a 25% tariff on imported steel and a 10% tariff on imported aluminum. He made the proposal back in March and granted a temporary exemption to several countries. Tonight, for Canada, Mexico, and the 28-nation European Union, that exemption expires.
So did we just declare a trade war on some of our closest trading partners and allies?
No, not at all. As you know, this has been under discussion for quite a long time, and it's a very small percentage of the respective economies.
Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross said talks over the North American Free Trade Agreement were taking longer than expected.
Let me be clear. These tariffs are totally unacceptable.
Canada is retaliating, announcing dollar-for-dollar tariffs on U.S. goods and services, including imported steel and aluminum, as well as items like coffee, yogurt, and maple syrup. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called the tariffs an affront because the U.S. claims it's imposing them for national security.
Canada is a secure supplier of aluminum and steel to the U.S. defense industry, putting aluminum in American planes and steel in American tanks.
Canada says it will join the European Union, taking the matter up at the World Trade Organization on Friday. EU, Canadian, and Mexican leaders say they're open to further talks directly with the U.S. Kenneth Craig, CBS News, New York.
Adam Behsudi is a trade reporter for Politico. He joins me now from Washington with more on this. So, Adam, first, how are these tariffs expected to impact the average American?
Well, thanks for having me. The tariffs are on steel and aluminum, and obviously those materials go into a lot of products. So there's been a lot of analysis on how it will raise maybe the cost of a car, an automobile, household goods, electronics, things like that. I think, industries have sort of made the argument that it will increase costs of production. But the administration has kind of downplayed that a little bit in terms of the overall impact it might have on a regular consumer.
Well, President Trump says the tariffs are meant to protect American industry. Will these tariffs accomplish that?
I think a lot of people are arguing that they will not. There's, like was said, these tariffs were put in place under a statute in which trade restrictions can be imposed as a way to protect national security. The argument from the administration is that there are the steel and the aluminum industries are a very vital part of our industrial base and for our military, and the dumping of goods from China, from other countries, is undercutting U.S. production, and that's basically causing our industry to be less competitive. And the national security risk is sort of in that our economic security is at risk, so therefore we can't supply what we need to maybe in the future to our armed forces or military. So that argument is being made, and a lot of countries are arguing against that, saying that, like Canada, as Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau argued very heartily today that Canada is a staunch ally and is by all intents part of the defense industrial base of the United States, and as he said there, provides steel and aluminum for U.S. tanks and airplanes.
Well, yeah, the EU, Canada, and Mexico have announced retaliatory tariffs. How will that affect the U.S. economy?
So a lot of the retaliatory tariffs will be on steel and aluminum products that we export out. Canada always likes to highlight the fact that they actually the U.S. actually runs a trade surplus on steel to Canada. So steel producers in some ways could be affected by those. But in terms of trade retaliation, a lot of times countries take a strategy of hitting politically towards their opponents. So they'll find products and commodities that might impact certain districts, congressional districts, and with a midterm election coming up, that could have some impact in some states and some districts, especially when it comes to agricultural goods, when it comes to manufactured items, things like that. So these countries are very strategic in how they pick which items and the tariff on which to put those items. So it becomes a very much more political exercise.
Well, several Republican lawmakers criticized the tariffs, including Senator Ben Sasse and House Speaker Paul Ryan. Might that push the Trump administration to reverse course?
Well, the Republican Party has been very critical consistently of this administration's trade policy, especially, the so-called more free traders. Paul Ryan, Ben Sasse, I think he called the tariffs dumb today. The chairman of the trade committees as well have been very vocal about not seeing tariffs and basically arguing that they could be counter to the impacts of the tax reform and other policies that this administration has put forward. So there's been a lot of backlash. I don't know how responsive this administration has been to that. I think a lot of that has been taken into account. I think some of that has translated into delays and more thinking. But in a lot of ways, a lot of people have told me that this is a decision that was coming from the very top. And despite the efforts of those in the administration to try to persuade the president against doing this, he did so anyway. So, the fact that pro-trade Republicans have opposed these policy moves for a long time, doesn't really seem to be having much impact overall.
All right, Adam Behsudi. Adam, thanks very much.
Thank you.